It was a chilly night in Paris, 2003. Robert Palmer, the man who gave us unforgettable hits like Addicted to Love, passed away at the age of 54. As he strolled the streets of Paris with his partner Mary Ambrose, his heart gave out, and a chapter in music history closed. This wasn't just a loss for his family, but for all music lovers who had danced, laughed, and cried to his eclectic mix of rock, pop, and soul. Palmer's life was as vibrant and complex as his music, and his journey from a small town in Yorkshire to international stardom is a story worth telling. One of the most gifted white soul singers of his crowded era, Palmer worked hard at being misunderstood. Album covers presenting glamorous women and video clips featuring rows of identically clad models gave the impression of a man more interested in hedonism than musical integrity. In fact, he believed that both were essential elements of a balanced life. Born in Batley, Yorkshire, and raised in Malta, where his father was a naval officer, Palmer had a voice that could be suave and gritty by turns, drawing on his early love of blues and soul music. His 30-year solo career produced a number of hits around the world, most notably Every Kind of People, Best of Both Worlds, Johnny and Mary, Looking for Clues, Some Guys Have All the Luck, and Addicted to Love. Palmer was noted for the care he devoted to the visual presentation of his music. Some fans, particularly those whose tastes were formed in an era that prized authenticity, found this off-putting. Others, however, understood that he aspired to inhabit the space between Sly Stone and Marvin Gaye on the one hand, and Bryan Ferry and David Bowie on the other. At 15, Palmer joined his first band, the Mandrakes, with whom he toured Scandinavia. He was still in his mid-teens when he replaced the equally gifted Jess Roden with the Alan Bown Set, who were well established on the busy British club circuit. After making one album with the band, which had changed its name to Alan Bown, he briefly joined Dada before teaming up with singer Elkie Brooks in a new rock band called Vinegar Joe. Palmer's potential had been spotted by Chris Blackwell, Island's founder, who launched his solo career by sending him to America to work with a hand-picked group of top musicians. Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley, Palmer's first solo album, featured members of Little Feat, with whom he toured the U.S. as a guest singer, and the Meters on a series of tracks infused with Southern soul. Almost as striking was the cover, the first of several by photographer Graham Hughes, which pictured a stylishly dressed Palmer emerging through a tunnel with a model clad in a lacy slip and a string of pearls. By the time Pressure Drop, Palmer's second album, appeared, the cover girl had removed everything but her high heels. It might have surprised those who derided him as nothing more than a rock and roll playboy to witness the glee and pride with which, on returning from Los Angeles with the tapes of the album, he played rough mixes featuring such heroes as the former Motown bass guitarist James Jamerson and the drummer Ed Green. Jamerson's characteristically inventive lines were in evidence on Which of Us is the Fool, a wonderfully passionate and infectious record which mystifyingly failed to become a hit. For all the attention to appearance and the impression of self-regard, first and foremost, Palmer was a music fan who loved the opportunity to work with great musicians. The influence of the Jamaican-born Blackwell could be heard in the use of Caribbean idioms on his first big hits Every Kind of People and Best of Both Worlds in 1978. But 2 years later, with Looking for Clues and the strikingly somber Johnny and Mary, he was demonstrating an ability to absorb the new wave electronics of Kraftwerk, Devo, and Gary Newman. Johnny and Mary later provided the theme music for a memorable Renault TV advertising campaign. In 1984, he joined John Taylor and Andy Taylor from Duran Duran and Tony Thompson, Chic's drummer, to form a short-lived supergroup, The Power Station. 2 years later, he returned to his solo career with Addicted to Love, which was promoted with one of the most striking and, to some feminists, distasteful videos of the early MTV era. She Makes My Day, a single from his 1988 album Heavy Nova, was another hit. Ridin' High, a 1992 album of standards, was an artistic and commercial failure. And in 1996, there was an attempt to revive the Power Station with an unsuccessful second album. In any age, Robert Palmer would have been a hipster with a hotline to the coolest sounds, the sharpest threads, the latest pose. It is a hard stance to maintain, and occasionally he wobbled, but his last album, Drive, showed him enthusiastically returning to his roots with direct and inventive versions of songs by J.B. Lenoir, Willie Dixon, Robert Johnson, Little Willie John, and others, And not a model girl or a wardrobe credit in sight. Robert Palmer died of a heart attack in Paris at the age of 54. He was on a 2-day break in the city with his partner Mary Ambrose after recording a TV appearance in the UK. He had been in London to record a television show for Yorkshire TV and was spending a short time in Paris before traveling home to Switzerland, where he had lived for the past 16 years. He is survived by his partner Mary Ambrose and by James and Jane, the 2 children from his first marriage, which ended in divorce.